Back in the early 1920s, the modern U.S. corporation was built by this guy. His name was Alfred P. Sloan. Anybody know who Alfred P. Sloan was? Anybody know anything named after him? Yeah, MIT, business school, Sloan Kettering Institute and Cancer Institute in New York. Anybody know who Kettering was? He was VP of Engineering. Why, of course. Right? Alfred P. Sloan was the president and chairman of General Motors. He basically brought cost accounting to the modern American corporation that allowed divisionalization to happen. He was the one that created the ability of modern American corporations to divisionalize and between the world wars grow big in the U.S. and post-war made it the American century by allowing the first wave of internationalization of American companies to happen. His management style. This guy ran GM for almost 35 years. Now, the interesting thing about Alfred P. Sloan is when you talk about the history of General Motors, this is who you talk about. Unfortunately, you don't talk about the founder, this guy, Billy Durant. Billy Durant founded General Motors. I'd be stunned if anybody in this room actually knew his name. Billy Durant was one of the few entrepreneurs in the early 1900s that was the leader in horse-drawn buggies and was smart enough to make the transition. He built General Motors out of these separate brands, and because he was the crazy entrepreneur, was fired by the board. And he said, "Oh yeah? Well, I'm going to start another car company called Chevrolet." He used Chevrolet to buy up all of GM stock and threw the board out. He regained control of General Motors until the board, ran by the DuPonts, fired him. GM, when they fired the founder, was the equivalent, in today's dollars, of $3.6 billion in sales. And none of us have ever heard of Billy Durant. Durant versus Sloan. What happened? Well, Sloan dies rich, honored, and famous. Durant dies penniless, managing a bowling alley. He was an accountant. You are here. Don't be confused. That's why accountants don't run startups, but usually make the money unless you've negotiated your founder's exit agreement up front.